Welcome back. Before we begin, I want you to let go of some tension. Relax your shoulders. Relax your jaw. Relax that tight part of your chest. Because if you've actually clicked this episode, there's a good chance that you might be carrying a bit of a quiet fear inside you. And that fear is, what if you are behind? What if there's not enough time? What if it's too late? What if you're starting too early? What if you're behind where you should be? Behind where others are? Even behind the version of life you imagined? Today, I want to offer you something radical in its gentleness. You're not behind. You're just on a different timeline. Because not everybody's on the same timeline. And the funny thing is, we weren't born feeling like we were behind. This is not something that we inherently have in our system, something that we've walked onto this planet and then suddenly known that, oh my God, I'm not walking fast enough, or I'm not talking fast enough. This is a belief that's kind of learned over time, and it's almost like we absorb it. And one of the biggest impacts is probably social media right now. Because we're looking at everybody's highlight reels, like the high points of their life. And we don't see the day-to-day things. We don't see the complete path, what it took to get there. I have a special position in my work that I get to see amazing people, and I see their ups and their downs, and I see the effort, and I see the time it takes. And I see the setbacks. And sometimes you get to see how one setback pushed things right into the right moment to make everything work out. I mean, we've got cultural milestones, expectations, you should be married by X. You should have your children by Y. You should retire by Z, right? I don't subscribe to any of that. In fact, before I met my wife, I was planning on being a Buddhist monk. I was not going to walk down any of those paths, any of the expectations. And, we were open to having children, but we didn't. And that's fine. We have a puppy now. And that's our child, I guess. And as far as retirement, people always talk about, can't wait to retire. I'm like, no. I don't want to retire. I want to continue going. There's family timelines, comparisons. You have brothers, you have sisters. Maybe they've made it a little further than you have down the path a little quicker. And so sometimes it's said in certain cultures, like when I was dating my wife, her mom would always, when are you getting married? When are you getting married? When are you getting married? And when we got married, it was like, when are you having children? When are you having children? When are you having children? And had she not been a pretty strong-willed person, maybe she would have kind of moved in that direction or pushed harder in that direction. But she's her own person, so she chose to go down the path she chose. And that's the thing. It's like, I feel like we're in a time where there is an awakening, where there's an understanding, right? Like we have these like instinctual urges for different things, to partner up, to procreate. And I think some people are conscious enough and awake enough to realize that maybe that's not for us. We're not going to do it just because instinctually some part of us wants to do that. And when we get conscious enough and we become our own person enough, then we don't live by the expectations of others anymore. There's even these silent questions that come, that you see them, you might interpret somebody as out there, or you might have it inside you. It's like, why not you yet? And then unfortunately, if you are completely surrounded like this, you can quietly and slowly internalize this. And then it becomes a part of you. And you feel like there's a schedule that you were supposed to follow if you haven't hit all those landmarks. And then you feel like, I missed it. It's interesting. There's athletes that feel like they have this small window. But here in Canada, I believe, like our female marathon record holder is in their 40s. And the second fastest marathoner is 45. And she just broke the 45 to 50 age category record for both men and women in a race. And this is a conversation I have with a lot of my athletes when they feel like, oh no, I'm like, I only have so much time. And it's like, no, there's more time than you think. The truth is, I really believe the people who have these guidelines and stuff, these were created probably because there was a time when our lifespan was much shorter. So there wasn't as much time. So people would panic, right? Now, women are having children in their early 40s. I think at one point, you wouldn't live much past your early 40s. So the time is different, but the expectations and the history hasn't caught up with the time. And the truth is, growth doesn't work like school. There is no universal syllabus for human life. There's no way it should be. So maybe it's time to stop shitting on yourself. And one of the things I've seen personally, working with incredible people, working towards incredible athletic pursuits, and the thing that you don't see is all those days and nights these amazing human beings broke down, frustrated, cried before they made it. See, we don't see the years someone spent surviving before they could dream. And if you really paid attention to amateur sports, especially in Canada, they struggle, they scrimp, they save to just barely make it. It's not easy. But if these athletes just show their highlight reels, it gives you a skewed sense of how things are going. And if you you start looking at business people, same thing. All these people, what was it? There was a stat that something crazy like 70 like 75% of self-made millionaires have gone bankrupt once, and like about 50% have gone bankrupt 2 or more times. But we don't see this. We just see the outcome. We don't see the process. So then when we're going through the process, we can't relate. So if it's not going to the kind of plan we have in our head, we think we're behind. The one thing they don't tell you and you don't see is the strength it takes to get to the top of their game. And the interesting thing is the only way you build that strength is by getting up again and again, falling down, getting it back up again. Strength and resilience is only built in the struggle, in the overcoming. It's not built in the winning. It's not built in the every workout that just went great. It's not built when your body feels perfect all the time. It's built when something happens that sets you back. And you take the time to recover and you come back again and again and again. Because every time you come back, you get stronger. But they don't tell you that. And there are some people who bloom early. And there are some people who bloom later. But that's just because that's their timeline. Have you ever heard the quote, comparison is the thief of joy? Think about, plants. There's plants that you plant in the spring that bear fruit in the summer. But if you plant a tree, an apple tree or a fruit tree, it may take 6 or 7 years, maybe 5 years, to start really bearing fruit. And they both bear something delicious, but one just takes long. The truth is there's different roots, different seasons, and different timelines for everyone. So, myself, I really lived a kind of a stunted growth life. I never went to university, mainly because, although I didn't know it, I was dyslexic. So my spelling was awful and my reading was terrible, so my English scores were really bad. So I thought, I'm not smart enough to do this. And I went out into a workforce, and I'm honestly a really hard worker, so I did well. But the truth was, I always knew I wanted more. There was something deeper. I wanted to make my living helping people, changing people, making a difference in the world. And it wasn't till my 40s when I took a job that was probably too much for me. I ended up being under such stress that I ended up in the cardiac ward thinking this is how it ends. And I was sitting there thinking, I'm in my 40s. There's no chance, financially, it's going to be a massive hit to go back to school. I'm dyslexic. How the hell am I going to do that? I just don't see things the same way as other people. I had to leave a line of career. Like they say, don't burn your bridges. And I really did. But the truth is, when you do burn your bridges, it's really interesting. You have no way to go but forward. And although, I didn't think I could handle it, didn't know how well I could do it, I went back to school anyway. And I dove in with all my heart. I aimed the one thing I know about myself. I'm a hard worker at that. And I came out, and went back probably 14 years ago. I'm 58, and I started this career. Had I listened to that thought process, like it's too late to go back to school, it's too late to reinvent myself, I'm not smart enough for any of that, I would never be where I am today. You can't listen to it. See, it wasn't too late. I was just on a different timeline. And I see how everything in my life lined up. It's amazing when you look back, there's this quote. The irony of life is it must be lived in forward, but it can only be understood when you look back. And I can see so many things that lined up, that got me prepared, that created and grew me into the person who could do the work I do. But not just do it halfway, but doing it incredibly well. So the truth is, I wasn't behind. I wasn't too late. I was right on time. It's just my timeline was different than others. See, the truth is, late does not mean lost. Many of the strongest and wisest and most grounded people you're really going to admire in this life didn't, and I would say almost all, they didn't find their voice early. They didn't find their path. They didn't find their purpose early. Many of them didn't find love early. They found it when they were ready to hold it. Because timing isn't punishments, it's preparation. Literally, I was not the right person to go into the work I went into until I'd been through everything I'd been through. And then finally I was the right person. And then I had to make a choice too. Then I had to let go of, it's too late. I had to let go of all the stuff that held me back and just dive into it. So I could encourage you, look for everything the so-called delay has given you, all the lessons. If you're a runner and you get you're on a build and you get injured, maybe it's like a slight injury, and you have to take a week off. Look in the past when that's happened and see where your peak was pushed to. Sometimes you find it aimed your peak right in the right place. And that's why it went well. You didn't go well exactly because you overcame and you came back strong and you had a good mindset. It also it worked out really well because it pushed your peak performance moment to the right time. One of the most powerful things I've learned, and one of the things I like to talk about, is reframing your story. So you can change the narrative. Don't accept the automatic narrative. You can ask yourself a simple question. You could ask yourself, why am I so far behind? Or you can ask yourself, what has my life been teaching me that others didn't need to learn? They say sometimes the path is harder because the calling is higher. Maybe you're here to learn a deeper level than the average, and that's why it's hard. And most of the time when you're going through hard things, where you're developing your resilience, your empathy, your depth, your perspective. And these things are not delays, they're foundations. Think about when you see a massive building being built. And they dig deep, deep, deep down into the earth. And they make massive pillars. And it takes, before they even get to the surface, it takes many months. Foundation, the bigger the foundation, the greater the possibility. So what if delay is just setting down foundations? You know? What if it's all on purpose? So here's some practical shifts you can make if you choose. Stop following what makes you rush. Because truth is, peace matters more than proof. The more you rush, the more your stress, your cortisol levels, the more urgent. The more you calm, the quieter, the more you hear, the more you see. Stop using someone else's chapter, their timeline, their life story as a deadline. I heard a story that one of the greatest female painters ever didn't even pick up a brush till she was 87. The truth is, another person's page is completely irrelevant to yours. The tapestry of your life is unique. Your calling is unique. The preparation for that calling is unique. One of the biggest practical shifts you can learn to do is start speaking to yourself like someone who's becoming. Someone who's laying down a foundation for something great. Someone who's more committed to learning everything they need to learn before they make the jump. Because you are becoming. That's who you are. That's why you're here. It's possible that one day you'll look back on this moment and you'll realize that you weren't late. You realize that something deep inside was working on gathering the exact experiences you need to finally live the life that fits you. You're not behind. You're right on time. Right on time for your life. Thank you for joining me again. Keep working on reframing the story. Trying to be calm, patient, trusting the process, and most of all, keep building your own inner advocate.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Your Inner Advocate, a podcast by Kimmin Peterson, formerly Conversations with Kimmin. If you found value in today's episode, please follow, like, and share the podcast with someone who you think may benefit from it. You can listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, and connect on Instagram at your_inner_advocate. Until next time, keep listening to and developing your inner advocate.